You know, picking up a couple of well-known Korean players, and they just went in all over the time. Great dragon control. Really, I mean, for all the aggression, really calculated, very precise movement and objective control.
But I think that's something with the Chinese scene as a whole that we definitely undervalue. We talk about their aggression and their team fighting, but these guys they don't fight over nothing. They fight over objectives. And in that game, they were able to get picks before the objectives and set them up extremely smoothly. So it just looked like a textbook style EDG victory.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, you know, Rek'Sai finally is this champion that everyone's been talking about. Looks so good there in that game, but we are, you know, our last champion select for the evening. Azir will actually get banned by EDG. Do not want to give that back to Assassin.
I do not blame them as well. Assassin played that very nicely. That last team fight's ultimate, if there hadn't been this huge Gnar and Rek'Sai in the middle of them, would have nearly turned the game.
Yeah, and Rek'Sai does get banned there as well by King, so doing that again. Yasuo, once again, the respect ban coming through. And now King with their next ban.
Yeah, and if anyone knows how much work Yasuo can do with forward, so definitely does not want to go against that one, taking it off the table.
So a bit more time now. Just thinking back, maybe now we'll see a ban here as well. King, especially on the red side, wouldn't be too surprised to see that get a look here.
Yeah, potentially, but then you kind of have to take Lysandra off the board as well. So I figured they'll leave both of them up and then just pick whatever doesn't get taken.
I mean, you know, Jarvan's in there as well, but, you know, plenty of choices. There's a Lysandra ban.
Yeah, so going the opposite of that, not taking away the Gnar, taking away the Lysandra, so you would suspect that the last ban coming through will be a Gnar if it isn't taken away by EDG.
Yeah, and that's been a common for three bans basically that we've seen this evening, is that Lysandra, Rek'Sai, and Gnar have pretty much been taken out of most of the games. And LeBlanc as well has also not seen a lot of bans this evening. So curious to see if maybe that's a thing, because both these players you think have to play them.
Yeah, and EDG banned LeBlanc last time, I believe, taking Janna off the board now. So maybe looking to first pick that, because probably don't want to give it over to Assassin in the mid lane for King. So Pawn, of course, fantastic LeBlanc player. Why wouldn't he take it away first?
Yeah, I wonder if King don't want to ban Gnar now though, because if they're thinking, well, we can probably get LeBlanc if they want to pick Gnar, we'll get one or the other. We don't really want to ban it and give it away. There's also Jarvan still up for grabs as well as the other top tier picks. So we'll see what happens here. Thresh also surprisingly contested in this region, which I found quite weird.
Yeah, very strange. I guess we have to throw the Sivir out of there just because of how high priority it's been. But LeBlanc is taken off the board, and it will be potentially the Gnar locked in for EDG. I don't see why they would not lock him in.
Yeah, after Korra's last game, absolutely fantastic. Just basically played the Korra that we know and love. Very safe, very competitive top lane. You know, didn't beat his laner up or anything, but just stayed up against the Lysandra and was able to go through.
But it out to Jarvan at the last second, so going away from that, maybe has a lot of confidence in Korra's champion pool, so feels Jarvan is with Rek'Sai gone, Jarvan is the last really good jungler left, so yeah, putting more priority on that one.
Lee Sin is still here as well, so there are options, but Jarvan is a very Clearlove champion as well. He's played a lot of this champion in his career, so not super surprising to see that going here. And Clearlove, I think, does want some priority here. We mentioned that when he has his good games, he's great, but his off games are quite off, so he probably wants to get a comfort pick for himself here, and something that he knows is good, that he can play well.
Ooh, and they've picked up the Cassian pick as well, so not electing for that Gnar. Maybe not played in the top lane by Skye.
Maybe. I mean, I like that Lamb's going to have his Thresh again. He played a really strong Thresh game despite the loss. And Pawn's Cassidy was good, but I don't know if it was, like, you know, blockable here, or block-worthy here by King.
Yeah, and they've gone with Pawn actually jumping onto that Zed in the mid lane, and then, oh no, hasn't been locked in, so we'll leave that one, but Gnar has, so it will be a Gnar in the top.
And impressed that EDG can actually get Gnar and Sivir here on second rotation picks. I was positive King was going to take at least one of those in their draft.
Yeah, especially because we've seen the potency of Sivir tonight. If anything, we've seen how prized Sivir will be throughout this whole patch, just because of how she rotates around the map.
And it seems like maybe, I think this is the matchup that EDG just played. So if Wax wants a big twitch, that would be the champion Deft played in their last match. I believe Wax played Sivir. But a little bit more time. There's Lee Sin, kind of the next best jungler left open here. And it seems like they are going to go with Twitch. We'll give them a couple more seconds, see if they want to maybe pick something else.
Yeah, and Twitch, of course, probably the highest damage potential in a team fight, 5v5. Has a very smooth item pathing as well. However, we saw that they do struggle in lane. So playing that against an AD carry like Deft means that you're going to have to be very much on point to not get punished for picking that Twitch.
Yeah, and apart from that, the crazy level 1 trade Deft played a very strong Twitch lane. He chose to go into that lane, and Mouse and him played a very strong 2v2, kind of crawling back into a lane. They got behind it early on.
Yeah, so they went behind, and they did unfortunately give up first blood. As I'm not going to mention that until it's locked in. But going with the Annie again, so a lot of kill potential in this lane actually now. As soon as the level 6 come through, and it will actually be the Fizz. That's nearly just as exciting.
This is a pawn champion if there ever was one. His Fizz at Worlds was phenomenal.
Yeah, really, really good. And you look at the lineup, the knockups that can come through, the amount of CC, and Siv's going to get them in there so fast. It just means that this, once again, EDG's put together a very scary team. Yeah,
and we kind of talked about it a little bit, that Jarvan's not the best pairing with Siva just because he already traverses so much distance on his own. But I think Nahr is perfectly good to get in there, even though he does have his bounce. But especially I think Annie actually getting in there is quite relevant because she's a super short-range caster.
Yeah, and actually going to throw this Kassadin into the mid lane against the Fizz and throw Aurelia up top against Nahr. Probably one of the better Nahr matchups. Aurelia does quite fine in that lane, so looking to take it to Koro this time around, although I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a lane swap.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that didn't see that actually in the last game, but expected it from EDG to swap their Twitch out into a 2v1. And I guess maybe EDG are going to be hunting this Twitch potentially and trying to force the standard lanes once again.
Yeah, I think if there is going to be a time that you would actually invade just for the sake of deep warding, it would be to try and punish this Twitch. Twitch Thresh doesn't add much together in the way of synergy as a lane as a whole, so why not try and seek it out and really put them behind? We saw that EDG had to deal with it in the last game. They fell about 30 CS behind and were able to crawl their way back into it, but it just is so hard to play from that much of a CS deficit.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how feasible it is on this patch, but we've seen a lot of supports from trying to roam quite a lot. They like to move around and make picks. If they can get Twitch into a 1v1, maybe swap into the old 1v1, 1v0 situation, that's also a good spot for a heavy farming carry like Tristana, like Bane, and like Twitch, because it's a very comfortable position. 1v1 against a top laner, usually pretty safe.
Yeah, definitely. And if anyone's going to affect the map as a support, it's going to be that Thresh, of course, adding multiple layers of CC, able to get in there quite quickly. And if he lands Death Sentence, he can take someone with him with that Lantern. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is the route they choose to go.
Yeah, I think Lance spots have been, maybe criminally underexplored on this particular patch. Again, everyone's still working out the jungle, and it's so different and quite a bit harder in the early levels. So not everyone's used to the same strategies that they implemented for quite a long time in previous seasons. But I think as we evolve more and more, maybe double jungling becomes more attractive. Maybe lane swaps are more attractive because if you don't do that, especially for AD carries, you have kind of a limited champion pool because you really don't want to throw, 2v2 into Sivir every game.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that becomes much more attractive, particularly on the blue side, is the level 2 gank mid lane, especially if you're playing something like Draven and you take that red buff first time around. There's no reason to not throw it out there every now and again, and I think that we've seen it in our region used to pretty good effect. You can use it to just throw people off their game, especially when things like Kassadin are being picked up. So I agree with you. I think pathing in general, both double jungle, support, and jungle are all being, I guess, still explored on this patch.
Yep, so we are into it. The final game of the evening, everybody here. EDG going to swap over to the blue side here for this one. King over on the right-hand side, the red side. We've seen a couple wards being put in. There's kind of a trail of blue EDG wards actually in a diagonal leading from their... leading from their red buff kind of to the other red buff, which is somewhat comical. But again, you talk about it. Teams wanting to get deep vision early on, not wanting to fight, but just wanting to know where the junglers are starting.
Yeah, and it looks like we might actually have standard lanes. There is EDG looking for a invade into that red buff on the side of King, but yeah, this is going to be successful. It's not going to be spotted whatsoever.
Yeah, and actually going to sneak their way in here. Corey even going to throw out a boomerang to kind of start things off here. And yeah, Clearlove's going to walk in and they're going to give this a go here. The steal is on. Lee Sin's over on his Gromp, actually. So this could be a very successful counter jungler here by EDG.
Yeah, so going to be able to pick up a little bit of an early advantage because they will have the experience on Clearlove, taking a little bit of damage and, of course, won't have one of those passives to help him through the jungle. But Jarvan clears relatively fine regardless. And it looks like they must have had some inkling that that was going on because King straight away running to that red.
Yeah, Lee Sin knows what's up. He's going to run towards that buff. He's got the gift of the Toadstool, I believe, from that Gromp Smite. And they're going to try and clear out this red buff. So some vertical jungle. Haven't seen it in a while. Whoa, Walk's in trouble down the bottom lane on that Twitch. very low. Must have had a 2v2 trade go wrong. And Deft, again, asserts dominance in the early levels.
Yes, Deft had to use Flash, whereas Wox has both of his summoner spells still up. So maybe a little bit in King's favor, actually, especially because they've got the lane pushing in their direction, which is always good. We did see a little bit of a level 2 gank as well coming in on that mid lane from Jarvan. So experimenting a little bit more with the pathing this game.
Yeah, Clearlove mixing it up, but both junglers will end up vertically jungling here and end up with both of their buffs. So nothing too major here is Koro farming it out here up against Skye. A little bit ahead on CS. Oh, Deft solo again. And Mouse also bleeding low with the Twitch poison on. So this is really on King's way. Again, the Twitch lane somehow getting ahead early.
Yeah, so Wox just playing this lane so well. And yeah, without seeing exactly what happens, that is extremely surprising for them to get that far ahead.
And I guess from what we saw in the last game, Twitch, his very early levels, like level 1, is very strong because his passive and his E are so strong at dueling, even just trading auto attacks back and forth. So there is an opportunity very early on in the lanes to get ahead on Twitch, but that window closes very quickly.
Yeah, and you feel if someone was going to use that and refused to extended trade level 1 with Twitch, it would have to be Deft. But, of course, Siva can start that W and put out some good damage herself, as we see maybe a little bit of the first skirmish.
Yeah, level 3 to level 2. Clearlove's like, oh, I guess you're in there. Just kind of walks away. Doesn't want to fight, maybe afraid of a bit more pressure coming in. But Koro is starting to bully now on this Gnar in this particular matchup.
Yeah, shoves in very, very well. However, with those mana biscuits going to come out, Aurelia just sustains through a lot of the incidental damage. Then picks up Ninja Tabba and is absolutely fine in the lane.
Yeah, Clearlove now going to look towards this bottom lane. Looks like he just wants to get some wards down here. Cover his bottom lane quite nicely here. Pawn's Fizz right now. A little bit behind actually on CS against Assassin's Kassadin.
Yeah, Kassadin just trades so well early on, as we see the first gank coming into the second gank probably coming into this mid lane. The lane is pushing, so Assassin may be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, Lamb's here as well. The Pawn will go in. Good smite there from Clearlove to slow him down. Assassin has to be careful. There's the tipping, but a flash hook there coming in for Lamb. Assassin is so low though, but Thresh does get the first goal to Clearlove's drive, and now Pawn in trouble, going to get low as well, and Thresh gets a double kill for himself. Koro's down the bottom as Mega now, but can't make enough of a difference. Mouse is here as well, but a 2 for 0 there for King.
Yeah, King, great turnaround there, understanding exactly where their players on the map were and able to come up huge. Assassin needs to be careful here. Koro can still put out a fair bit of damage, but they're going to walk out of that with a 2 for 0 trade.
And a great bounce there as well from Koro. Will dodge out the next hook that Liam was throwing out, but a really nice roam there for Thresh, set a lot of that up, and just a bit of an overextension. A great counter gank by King.
And wow, CS in this bottom lane, 14 to 35. That is huge, tripling Death CS.
How does this keep happening in Twitch lanes? I don't quite understand, but Wux has got a good lead here. Good enough that Lamb felt comfortable leaving the bottom lane to go gank mid, and Deft is still behind here, more than 20 CS.
Yeah, but there is a big wave there, so we'll be able to catch up relatively close. However, we compliment Deft a lot, but his laning probably is one of the weaker parts of his game. He does exert a lot of teamfight pressure, but yeah, maybe just trying to not give too much away in lane, go relatively equal, then trust in his ability to just carry in those teamfights. Yeah,
and it's, you know, we talked maybe a little bit about EDT's history as a team, that they like to play quite controlled and play for big late game teamfights. Their old AD carry, Name, of course, was known for just being such a teamfight god. And Deft is in a lot of ways, you know, kind of the Korean successor to, or the Korean version maybe of Name. Plays in a very similar style.
He definitely does, and I think the very similar thing between Name and Deft, which is unexplored sometimes, probably more in the Western region, is just how well they do with what they're given. They're very, very good. Yeah, they might fall behind a little bit of CS, but then they will do more than the other AD carry with less in these team fights.
Yeah. And just, again, we talk about Deft eking out every point of damage that he can with every AD carry that he gets. Going to be able to do that here as well, and we'll see if he can convert it into some nice fights. But for now, lead actually quite nice here for Kings. Developed those 2 quick kills. Has got them about 1,000 gold worth of money in the lead here. So good little start for them. Def will get hit up by that W. Mouse is playing very far back here as well.
Yeah, I think he was looking to get a little bit of a gank in, as we see. Wux able to stealth away from there. He's 1v2ing at the moment and still able to stay up relatively close to CS, so doing a nice job.
Yeah, Lee Sin also rotating in. Lamb's going to come back down to this lane, though. Clearlove was peeking his head down towards the bottom. but couldn't pull the trigger on the gank. Koro here farming up nicely. 10 CS still up against this Aurelia. Now level 6 for himself, so once he goes back into Mega now, we'll have that very powerful ultimate available. Pawn, not quite 6 yet, but just farming under his turret. And this is, I think, quite common of Fizz, where you don't really snowball lanes all that often, but once you get to your first Lich Main, you can start roaming and really impacting the map.
Yeah, I want to see the build Pawn goes, because we've seen a couple of different ones coming out. There is, of course, the Lich Bane Rust that a lot of people still use. However, you can sit on a Sheen and go some Zhonya's or other cool things that can get you involved in the game and make you more of an initiator. So see how Pawn plays this one out. It looks like Phage will be the first item in the top lane for Koro this time. The build I personally find most effective against melee top laners is if you get a Phage, sit on it, don't complete your Trinity Force, because I feel there are definitely better stats out there for Anar, and then go into that full tank build, because it just augments your W so well, allows you to get a lot of movement speed and keep up and get all those free auto attacks.
Yeah, and keeping up with a champion like Aurelia is very important, as Pawn actually going to get quite aggressive. It does snap back there towards his minion, but Assassin is getting a little aggressive there. This is kind of an interesting part of the matchup, I feel, where I feel like Kassadin early on, it's very close, because both of the mages have auto attack enhancers that make their early trading quite good. But I'm not too sure who's supposed to win in the early levels. I think level 6 is crazy, though, because Kassadin's basically just trying to dodge a Fizz ult.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. It's like, can I not get whittled away as a Fizz versus can I land that ult and get enough burst damage down to force him out of the lane? I don't think you're ever really going to outright kill a Kassadin unless he makes a very serious error, just because he can jump backwards as your Q goes off and you don't really follow him far enough. However, yeah, you said it exactly right. It is one of those very, very... especially if you put junglers in there, it just becomes an absolutely dynamic matchup that can go either way. And
I think what's interesting is that, you know, we're maybe 10-ish minutes into this game, First Dragon hasn't really been looked at yet in this particular game, whereas before, she had a very clear path with Clearlove getting a very nice gank and then converting instantly into that dragon.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was. This time it was King that set up a very nice 4v4 kind of. It was like 2v3, 4v4, and then 2 people died. But it was a little bit too early to rotate into that dragon. So what EDG did was they're like, okay, well, we need to put some brakes on this game. We need to recoup and get ourselves back into an even footing. We don't want dragon yet. And King are like, well, they fought dragon really well last game. And with the amount of early damage it does, we don't want to commit either.
Yeah, and I think we maybe even going to have a standoff at Dragon, which I think is something that's maybe unexplored, because you get an edge to take Dragon, you just take the first Dragon, and it's really simple. Got a great boost. It always helps you through the game. It's great to take, but I feel like no team ever wants to commit to a Dragon fully like you used to, and the trade is now much different as well.
Yeah, and because of how you used to be able to juggle Dragon aggro, you could start it up and just take no damage, and they had to come to you, otherwise you slowly whittled it down. Dragon slaps early game now. He does AoE damage. That guy, like, he went to the gym, he worked out over the summer, our summer, and he came back bigger and better than ever. He does serious work early on.
Yeah, and now, so as a result, Dragon is just a much bigger commitment, especially in the earlier stages of the game. It can still be taken at similar timings. You know, 8 to 12 minutes is possible, but it's get pushed back a little bit now. More we see closer to maybe 12 to 16 minutes is maybe the window that the first Dragon gets taken.
Yeah, and it's because of how he works. We spoke about how he does that AoE strong attack now, but it's much slower. So whilst if you take it with full commitment, all your team members, like maybe 3 or 4 people on there, he still falls relatively easy. It's that if you try and juggle it and extend the dragon bit and poke out, that he gets so much work done.
Yeah, and I guess if that's the case, we're just maybe going to have this laning phase go a little bit longer and have these teams be like, you know, I'm just not comfortable yet fighting for this dragon. And we might see our first mid-game team fight, maybe, 16, 20 minutes, that is for that first dragon.
Yeah, and I think that both teams will be happy for very different reasons. EDG is like, okay, let's farm. We'll fight them at 40 minutes if we have to. We don't have to run into them till there because we're that confident in our team play. Whereas King are like, all right, you give us 2 major items and fight us at 20 minutes and see how that works out for you. We'll take the whole map off you at that point. So I like that both teams are trying to play their style. It's just that their game plan coincides on the same path for a little bit longer.
Yeah, just thinking through the champions as well. I don't think there's a distinct advantage in terms of pure composition. I think EDG at some point are required to make a move because you're kind of wasting your Sivir ultimate if you don't use it, especially in like the heavier grouping stages of the game, where you're looking to get together more and have big fights and have big skirmishes. But even then, if EDG, a team that's changed 2 members, including their fabled AD carry, and still have strong late game, I'm going to be very impressed.
Yeah, and I think that last game showed us that they still have similar coordination to what they were showing. The spike I'm waiting for is like the Blade of the Ruined King, maybe a Brutalizer as well as the Aurelia Trinity Force, because I feel that when Aurelia gets Trinity Force, can dive in and put a lot of pressure by herself, add a Cassin on top of that, and then you just have a Twitch on the back line that can unload and take people out of a team fight. So I think that will be the first spike where King are really like, all right, we've got an advantage at this point of the game.
It's funny, actually, until you kind of walked me through that, I was like, oh, King actually have a very similar comp to EDG's game on comp. And Twitch Cassin is one of those things where, you've got all your front-end damage in the Twitch in the back, and then all of your janitor duty for the Cassin once you get to it. It's just setting that up, and we saw that beautifully in Game 1 with Clearlove's Rek'Sai and Korra's Nas setting it up as well. They've got Aurelia this time around, which is a little bit different. I think Lee Sin is their jungler as well, so going to be a little harder to set up those big 5v5 fights.
Yeah, and Aurelia is one of those champions that it's really weird to play because Trinity Force and her passive makes her very tanky until people get damaged, and then she needs the defensive items to stack up. So she has this very, very small window where she hits one major item when boots 2 and is strong, and then kind of has to wait for her second one to finish before she gets to that point again.
Yeah, it's kind of like, she obviously scales very well with items, but because you're just going for a Trinity Force, for the most part anyway, with your damage items, you're good from there, because pretty much no one can out-duel you, because you've got Hiten Style that's got, close to max points, if not max points at that point. Yeah. And you're just killing people with Trinity Force. But from that point on, you're almost racing the damage items of the carries on the other team. Yeah, I think that's a cool way to think about it.
Yeah, and she's much like Renekton late game, like a much better late game champion than Renekton because of her passive. That's what gets a lot of work done. But she becomes this absorb. You have to peel her because if she sits on your AD, she will win 1v1. So she like this big melee absorb that you don't want to hit her, but you have to.
Yeah, kind of excited to see if Mouse is... I'm actually really curious that Mouse has been playing support, and he now for a second game in a row. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's just a thing that he's clearly comfortable on it because he played a great game 1 with it. Maybe it's something that they want to do. Maybe they feel it need more initiation, but it is nice to see, especially we got to the end of the evening, that, the aggressive Chinese engaged supports are still around too.
Yeah, and I think that Annie just brings something that you replicate very difficultly with ranged supports. Like the closest I can think of it is like a Leona throwing out that ultimate or the Zenith Blade, but is much more all in, can't change her mind halfway through. She's either in or she's out. Yeah. Whereas Annie has the best of both worlds, can throw out the tibbers, get the big stun up, but then is also a ranged champion, so doesn't have to overcommit. Yeah,
and I guess we'll see what happens as we kind of move through here. Really curious to see Pawn's Fizz as well, because struggling a little bit here in this lane right now. I mean, it's still quite close, but I feel like giving Cassin a free lane always feels really scary, and I just don't ever want to do it. But Pawn's Fizz is really good, and I guess for me as we move through the game, it's a matter of what do our skirmishes look like, and what does the lead up and especially the first dragon fight look like as well.
Yeah, well, you mentioned how Aurelia is like a race against the defensive items versus attack. Fizz is the opposite. He's like racing you to see if he can take all your health away before you can keep yourself alive. So Pawn, he's definitely having a rough early game. Like, really big props to the whole King lineup for getting 4 of their members there and turning that one around. I think that is massive, and that will play on Pawn's mind because he did overcommit. He even flashed to try and get an extra auto attack off to try and secure that kill. So, yeah, being held in check at the moment. But the most devastating thing about Fizz, as we do jump back in the game, is he kind of goes even in lane, and you're like, all right, we got this guy under control. And then he goes bottom lane and gets a double kill, and you're like, wow, we just really made a big error. Yeah,
and Fizz is just never a champion that you can afford to get out of control at any point. Because if he's above your, kind of like the reverse earlier, right? If he's above the defensive capabilities of your carries in particular, it's real bad news. He's actually going for a pretty curious item here, Morellonomicon.
Yeah, and I mentioned that a lot of Fizzes have been really mixing it up lately, and I think Morellonomicon does a lot of things that Fizz wants. It gives him a lot of early CDR. Of course, the more often he can get up on that playful trickster, the less damage he will take. We see
Deft.
Wow.
That was a sick juke there. Here comes Lee Sin as well. Teleport also down. 4 members committed to this bottom lane, and Deft just walks away.
Yeah, just absolutely. strolls out, actually, and that will be the Dragon going down. Corey doesn't have his teleport, so we'll be able to start that one up. See if they can stall it out. They have got the all-important Sivir rolled out, but they force the bottom lane to walk around.
Yeah, so kind of a brute force Dragon here. Assassin going to leap forward. Q just missing it. Lamb could be in trouble, but a good spell shield blocks off that hook there as well from the Thresh. Another Dragon will reset. Lamb going back, and he's got to be careful that Pawn will pick up the kill after he gets smited. What a fish, though, onto Leeches. Double knock-up as well. Clearlove now going in. There's Deft over the top, and what? Whole host of trouble goes down to Clearlove. Now Pawn still chasing here, and what a wipe from EDG. Turned that completely around.
Yeah, Wix does not like his jungle right now. Just transported a fish on top of him. That will give up the first Dragon. And I mentioned earlier today, I was watching a lot of the Demacia Cup, and if you start a Dragon without an advantage on this patch, you lose the Dragon fight.
Well, that's exactly what happened here. Is EDG will once again pick up their first Dragon of this game. 5th consecutive Dragon across this series so far. They have not conceded one yet.
And all of a sudden, you look across the board, CS has completely evened out. Somehow Deft is equal. 3-3 in kills, and they've got 1,000 gold advantage off Koro in the top lane.
I feel like that happens a lot with Deft, by the way, where it's like, oh, he's behind. That's kind of awkward. You look back a few minutes later, it's like, oh, he caught up somehow. How'd that happen? He's just really good at playing from behind, being flexible, being patient, and just keeping up somehow with the other laners.
Yeah, and I think he understands very well how the wave actually pushes in the bottom lane, because you can get some good reverses going and force a lot of creeps up against turrets while objectives are going on. And I think that's exactly what happened there. Koro has stopped on just that phase. Wow, good flash to get away from that gank coming up top from Skye. Yeah, so he's stopped on the phase. He's picked up his boots too, as well as a Giant's Belt now, so is looking to turn into that big tanky mid-game team fighter.
Yep, Wux has finished his Blade of the Ruin King though. He will continue pushing down towards the bottom as Deft will return there. Pawn has gotten his blue buff now for himself, so he's going to be going back towards the mid lane there. Still a little behind here in terms of CS against his Caston, but he's doing pretty well so far at 1-1-2 on the Fizz.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, I really like this build coming out of Koro. It gives you a very good, I guess, acceleration into a Trinity Force if you do manage to keep snowballing. Not a fantastic early game item on Null, but does add a lot of late game damage in there as Clearlove picking up his red buff. And all of a sudden, EDG have just regained complete control over this map.
Yeah, it does not take much for this team, but boy, do they go big when they go in. Tower goes down as well. Koro able to bully Skye quite nicely, actually massively in the top lane. That CS difference is astronomical.
Yeah, that is absolutely huge. Pawn giving up on that.
Koro's coming down as well towards the bottom lane, actually wants to get in on the action. Did port down and try and pressure in, but couldn't get the kill. Oh, he does go down. Koro there dives through, Clearloving with Mouse as well, and even Deft got in on that kill.
Yeah, and now they've caught out the support player as well. Deft picks that one up, so...
First kill of him for the game, and that's really nice. EDG now going to try and take a turret, and again, pretty weird teleport it seems like from Koro, but makes everything count.
Yeah, and wow, sorry, I just got speechless because I checked out the Fizz's boots, and he's got nearly max CDR without a blue buff. Going to be spamming abilities out with some mana regen as well on Fizz, so interesting build coming out of Pawn. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. I
mean, if I'm going to trust anyone blindly about mid lane builds, just Deft just chunks out the Assassin, though, going to come through, try and take out the Sivir. They're going to fight him, though. Clearlove is running defense. Assassin, though, will be able to get the Rift Walk on. Clearlove doing decent damage, but can't really fight the Cassidon, especially with Lee Sin coming back in.
Yeah, and Ninja Tabai pretty much being picked up by top lane and jungle alike in this game. Aurelia hasn't started boost 2 yet as Pawn's been caught.
He's found a fish at lane though. Does get Pawn, but he'll playful tricks her out. Woxer coming through, does have his ultimate, but won't pop up. Mouth comes in, they want it. There's the fish follow up as well. Great lantern though, actually maybe dodge the Urchin Strike, but Pawn, plenty of damage left on Mouse. Tanks one last turret hit, and that's enough.
Yeah, that manipulation of Tibbers there from Mouse was so impressive as Koro just dives and kills Skye in the top lane. Made sure that the hook there hit the bet. Just uses the Tibbers to screen himself, keeps it in between himself and Lamb, and Koro is, yeah.
I mean, all of EDG right now, it seems like they must feed on the power of Dragon, because as soon as they get their first Dragon, everything seems to change for this team.
And that went from being 1,000 gold down to like 3,000 gold in the lead in about 3.5 minutes then. So as soon as we came back from that slight pause, they've just accelerated so quickly through this game and really taken a hold of it.
It's impressive to me, and all of the lanes are opening up as well. Deft is getting in there, Pawn started to roam a bit more, and Koro with the solo kill dive in the top top lane as well. And I have no idea how Korra's this far ahead on CS, but you know, we had one game, he's keeping up with Lissandra, one of the top-tier top lanes on this patch, and now on this Nara again, just bullying poor Skye.
Yeah, and making me rethink how this lane matchup goes, because now he's got that Randuin and Omen, and Skye is in all sorts of trouble.
Korra going to get kicked back there. Assassin now going to get the damage, but Clearlove's that gear. A great bounce by Korra, and there's the ultimate. Picks up Lee Sin. Good play back to Korra. Going to be in trouble. He does evolve in. They will put the wallop in. Good wallop there. Actually gets him into the ground. Now Skye going to come through. Mouse will go down to the Twitch, though, and Korra also solo needs to be careful. He's going to go down to Skye. He's going to get the reset on that blade surge, but yeah, Deft in as well. Now Pawn will turn around for the first kill. Watts gets eaten alive by that Fizz, and Assassin now maybe going to get dive under this turret as well. Does Riftlock out of the way, but EDG again just turned it around.
Yeah, still a 4 for 2 and a mid lane turret. Deft was able to pick up the bottom lane turret in all of that as well, so great play from EDG. I said 3,000 gold about a minute ago. Now it's out to 6,000 gold. And wow, this team plays around their top laner so well. Didn't even have the Nara available and still able to win that team fight. Yeah,
really nice management of the range. Deft here looking for another kill on Assassin, but will recall himself now as well. Dragon back up in 40 seconds here, so EDG going to look to make it, I think, 6 straight across 2 games here, and of course their second consecutive in this particular game as well.
And now Pawn's picked up a needlessly large rod. I actually have seen this build, I think, coming out of Faker recently as well, so looking to get as much CDR as possible, then get a Zhonya's Hourglass and be that very, very frustrating jump in, get as much damage down onto the Twitch as possible, very immobile AD carry, and then be able to Zhonya's, use that Playful Trickster for the damage and get a second rotation of spells out. So apparently that's how you now... Oh, wow, Zhonya's has been finished up.
Yeah, he's done. He's biggest jump in power here for Pawn. And you know, if there's a player other than Faker that can play that really slippery Fizz and be in and out and really aware of the fight and the cooldowns, it's Pawn, man. He just so good and so precise with any champion he plays. And this Fizz build, I think, fits his playstyle to a T here. So Dragon is up. Baron is also available, but I don't think we'll be seeing that just this second. EG going to want their second Baron, excuse me, and King would really love their first.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, I mentioned that King thought they would have had a good 2-item power spike, but how far this Twitch has fallen behind, just not going to be enough, and Dragon number 2 will fall away, looking to pick up a blue buff potentially in response. But that's just Cassidy by himself roaming through there. Yeah,
he's actually going to recall as well. I believe he picked up that blue as Skye will clean out some minions in the top. Defto will rotate in. Pawn already been looking at the side wave here in the top lane. And they're going to maybe try and siege up this turret and take another objective.
Yeah, and it looks like they will be able to get it. Slow rotation coming through from King in regards to this. Skye will be able to pick up a turret in response, but this is a tier 2 bottom turret, arguably one of the most important on the map.
Yep, tower there goes to Skye, and EDG I think have to give it up, so good defense there from King for their bottom tier 2 turret. But again, another nice rotation. Korra working on it in the mid. Maybe they'll get a different tier 2 turret.
Yeah, maybe they just rotate across to the mid one. Teleport does come through, looking to start a fight.
Pawn is so slippery as well. I don't think you can catch him. Good playful Trickster. The kick's back though. Good kick by King. Great play as well. But Paul pumps solos and fishes the Lee Sin. Now Clearlove's going to dive in with the ultimate. Gets hooked though. Taking a little too much damage. Korra.
They back out of there. I mentioned in the last game, even though OX is very far behind, he's still a Twitch and that's still a choke point, so didn't want to go in there, but he was about to maybe get enough for that Evolve to come through, and with the Nara available, would have been quite good.
Yeah, if Mega Nara had been a little closer, I think, they maybe would have picked that, but I think a smart play, definitely the safer play, to back off there from EDG, and they've certainly played safe in a lot of instances here.
Yeah, and why not? They feel like they can win team fights on their terms, so don't risk it unless you're completely confident. Looks like King are now getting a little bit more aggressive, looking to push in there. Assassin is on the side, will Rift walk out now. Giving up on that one, but just making sure they can get a little bit of CS on. And
I just kind of glanced down at my minimap for a second. That vision by EDG around the Dragon area is ridiculous. I almost used a different descriptor for that. That is absurd vision control.
Yeah, and I think they've got 5 pink wards on that bottom half of the map, just completely strangling King out of their blue side of the jungle. Will pick themselves up a blue buff for that. Onto Deft, actually, so Civ are going to be able to spam out as much boomerangs as you want.
And we wonder why the Dragon control's so good. That is an incredible commitment to deep vision there.
Yeah, and I think that Clearlove has to be given a lot of credit for this as well. Going side zone on Jarvan, able to contribute to the wards it comes down. understands with the Lee Sin on the other side, Sightstone will be picked up as well. So just looking to even it out for his team and get them further ahead.
And kind of looking at item builds, I kind of want to point down to EDG Deft here on his Sivir. We've seen this actually quite a lot this evening, but what's your opinion on the Brutalizer Sivir action?
I'm liking it. I really think that it's a smart way to play Sivir. It gives her a nice smooth power curve that we talked about, so important for these AD carries in mid-game. And then I like the ability to be able to pop the Yomus and rotate yourself around a fight because you're such a short-range AD carry. So going something like a Static Shiv, yeah, it might be more upfront burst damage, but mobility is king in this current meta.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of, janitor duty that Sivir does where she wants to kind of clean up team fights. And you're right, especially when you're short range. Yomis is completed there as well. Deft wants to make sure he's able to get in and out of these fights, even when his ultimate's down.
Not to mention that Brutalizer is such a gold-efficient item, so if you can afford to put it in your build, why not?
Yeah, it's just, the stats are so great. Here is EDG. Going to look to maybe set up a brush there, but no, they're going to think better of it. And I really have to credit EDG's patience when Dragon isn't up. They seem to play best when it is up, and they're just really good at forcing that objective. But, they're just patient, keep their vision up, keep the sideways going, get that farm up, but just never overcommitting because they know there's nothing useful that they can take right now.
Yeah, and now they force down mid lane because they haven't seen anyone in either side of the jungle. Buy Coral a little bit more time to push this wave out because he was against the 2v1 and they still look like they didn't want to go in on him.
Coral is still unbelievably far ahead. He's going to get jumped on the Nara's up. He goes into the wall. He wants to fight it. Great double wall up as well. And the boulder coming through, but Lamb's here as well. Got to be careful. That's a great kick and a hook though. Play back there. Coral maybe can flash over the wall. He's going to throw a boulder, but a good juke there from Skye. But what the moves here from Coral. Actually, Sivir popped over the wall to get now back out around the other side.
Yeah, and they did not want to walk up to that wall because they knew there was a Sivir waiting on the other side with an Annie to start the fight back up. In fact, they're able to pick themselves up a turret in the mid lane while all that's happening. And
No, finally does go down. Skye hunts down Koro.
Yeah, and it looks like Mouse wants a little bit of revenge, going for that bloodthirsty support, not able to pick it up. Was zooming actually around the map with those movies activated.
Yeah, I love the Annie build again here, coming up from Mouse, going for very heavy engage here. Has plenty of other tools here with the Sivir especially to help get her into the fight, but wants to flash a lot for the ultimate. Clearlove getting away with that recall. Their Lamb will not land that hook, but the Moby boots with the quick distortion upgrade here, just all of what Annie wants is an engage tool.
Yeah, just wants to get in there, get that flash up as much as possible, picks herself up another Fiendish Codex. I'd love to see that be turned into a DFG.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen, but that would be quite the build here coming out from Mouse.
I think that potentially getting that the thing that removes stuns could be quite important. Yeah, QSS could be quite important to try and peel for this Aurelia. I feel that if Deft is going to be in trouble from anyone, the QSS could come out quite soon and just make sure that they secured that part of their win, I guess. Condition, but with the Dragon coming up in 30 seconds and once again complete control over that side of the map, EDG is just going to move in and take another one away. Want to make sure that they can get this third Dragon, and again, immaculate Dragon control from EDG. They've put so much strong deep vision here. They're even pressuring this tower before the Dragon comes up, just so they can, force King a little further back in their base. Yeah, and a lot of pushing waves out while Dragon is up about the vision that they give you as well. Like, yeah, wards are great, they give you a vision, but minion waves give you even more, and they show you exactly where the team is moving down. As we see a couple of wards over the wall, they think that they are baiting for a fight here, so King don't want to engage, but this will mean that they're able to pick up another free Dragon for themselves.
How good is their vision around this Dragon? Cora's not even here. He's actually going to time his movement towards the top wave. Now he's been seen. He does have his teleport, to be fair. But if they wanted to fight, Dragon goes over there as well. EDG 3 straight, make that 7 across the 2 games here already. Koro didn't show him until they basically finished that Dragon just to make extra sure.
Yeah, and maybe even looking for them to rush it and be like, okay, Dragon's going down. We think that it's going to happen. Oh, we see Koro. Maybe we can try and fight this. Teleport would have come through. So great play out of EDG here. Koro pushing up that lane, picking up even more CS for himself. 229. He's nearly 100 in front of Aurelia.
Yeah, he's unbelievably far ahead for a professional level League of Legends match. This happens so rarely. It's almost Flame-esque in the 1v1 here for the top lane. Koro's just gotten so far ahead. You can see the gold there.
2,000 gold ahead himself. That is absolutely huge, especially if you put it into tank stats like he has. He is going to be unmovable. Yeah,
and a 6,000 gold lead for EDG is a very pretty spot to be in as we tick up, towards 29 minutes. Blue buff again going to be stolen away, likely going over to Pawn this time around, who does pick it up. And his Fizz, we mentioned it, Kind of hadn't done a whole lot, but had some good fights. 6-1-4, a great score, and now added a Void Staff as well to his item.
Yeah, not surprised with the early Void Staff. If you do go for the Lucidity Boots for the cooldown, you do need to get an earlier Void Staff than you would with any other build, as we see them pushing into the bottom turret now. So that needs to be careful.
Getting so aggressive, stuns up Leo. Look at the damage following in. Korra's going to get that kill there. Didn't even need the Fizz, actually. He was walking up as well.
Yeah, I just feel there's nothing King can do at this point in the game. Unless they really put their hard hats on and stall out for a very long time. At this point, I just feel the dives can come through from Korra, and it's nearly lights out. He's picked himself up a Warmogs as well. That is just a very, very tanky Nah.
And Korra has been a nuisance 2 games in a row now on this Nah, or I guess this game and the last game. I don't think Korra's going to be seeing a lot of this champion. I'm actually surprised that King gave it to him again in this particular game. Looks like Blue Buff going to go over to Poncho. He's going to get a bit of a refresh there on that one. Baron available as well, of course. Scuttercrab already taken. EDG, I have to take a step back here. Their control of the map has been unbelievable in these games.
Yeah, and this is what they were known for. They were the, oh wow, Korra just wanders into a team.
1v3 right now, bounces in there almost at Megan. Happily fighting here if he wants to. Throws a boulder, forces Assassin Ripwalk out. Free red buff there for EDG.
Yeah, and EDG, yeah, they're an aggressive team. Yeah, they play the Chinese meta very well. But they were the most Korean-esque in map control out of all the Chinese team. They definitely did play that part of the game extremely well, and now they'll pick themselves up a Baron for purely forcing King out of their jungle.
And you know, from what we've seen from just today's game, it seems like the overall level has just risen quite a lot here in the LPL, but if ever there was a flagship team for the new wave of Chinese players, and I guess now Chinese and Korean players, or just LPL players in general, EDG, man, they're carrying that flag and waving it very high.
Oh, they definitely are, and yeah, you said it, like, if you had to watch last season, it was a very high quality of games, but this just seems to have risen to the next level. And with the talent you see just across these two teams, it's no wonder there's like 8 or 9 very solid teams in the LPL.
But EDG are just setting up another really one-sided game here, it seems like. And they kind of creep up on you. It reminds me of very old school World Elite, whose best games were ones where they got ahead and just never let go of Elite. They were incredibly good at basically starving you off the map, and EDG are replicating quite a lot of that here.
Yeah, and if they do it through teamfight control, I don't think you can stress how good these guys are as a unit of 5. There's a reason that you see them grouped up so much, or Korra in a lane by himself with that teleport ready, and it's just because when they say go and they get in there, they're very, very good at taking it off.
Just all of the sidewave management as well. Mid's already pushing in. Korra's got the business going in the bottom lane as well. Like, EDG have just, look at the vision just on the map alone. There are blue wards everywhere through King's jungle.
Yeah, and look at the CS that's coming out of Korra as well. He's putting up absolutely insane numbers. All of a sudden, Deft's 50 CS up as well. You have to feel for Assassin. He's had a very good game on Cass and is just not able to do anything against this machine that is EDG.
Now Deft does have to be careful. That tower does go down. The Pawn's actually going in. Once the auto Wooks gets deleted off the map there, and now Pawn's going to dive in so slippery. Just wants to get as much damage done. Clearlove ults there out onto Kassadin.
Pink Ward MVP there. Wux tried to stealth up there and was in complete vision, got timbered in the face, blown up. That will be the first inhibitor of the game. And from here, you would think that EDG could nearly push this into the base.
Yeah, they're going to certainly do a pretty good job of it. Korra does get himself hooked up. Box they use as well, just gnaws them away. Walks out there. Deft's like throwing a parting boomerang. Takes off maybe a quarter of Lamb's health there. And EDG are looking to close out a very decisive game 2 once again.
Yeah, so they're able to pick up the Baron. They get the first inhibitor of the game. It's in the top lane. Look for them to, once again, teleport wasn't used, so why not send Korra back to the top lane, push that wave in as far as possible, rotate him into mid, send everyone else bottom. Yeah,
and Korra just speeding out of the base as Minina. Just so tanky is this Yordle. He's actually still got that Phage. I don't know if he's ever getting a Trinity Force, but...
No, you don't. That's what I said. You just sit on it all game, get all your tank items, become this huge nuisance, and then late game when you're like, okay, as a Nah, I can do damage, you just pick it up. As we see Deft running into MLXG.
Pops his Ghost, but actually Pawn has fished Lee Sin as well, and that's an easy cleanup there for Sivir.
Yeah, able to get it in there, picking up another kill. That's going to be devastating. They can get Korra to join this whenever they would like, and they're just going to push into the bottom now. Yeah,
Korra is somewhere. He's actually run back to base. Got a Thornmail for himself now to be even tankier. But Deft and Pawn here, the Koreans here on EDG, they're new players leading the charge here down the bottom lane for what could be one of our last pushes of the evening here. And it would would mean a 2-0 victory for EDG as well.
Yeah, and EDG just play a good style of League of Legends. That's the only way I can really describe it. They play very controlled, very calculated, but then when they want to move, they are just so coordinated. And I couldn't be happier for the Chinese people on this team that have picked up two very, very good Koreans in Noheart and Deft, and they just look completely at home.
You know, I'm honestly happy for the people watching this stream and getting to watch this, because this team just looks unbelievably fun to watch and just so incredible. If you're into high-level League of Legends, like, you know what, if you just like League of Legends at all, 4 straight dragons again for EDG. This is close to a flawless game, by the way. There was a point where King weren't going to get a turret. His assassin just has to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, if they hadn't have made that mistake early and given up 2 kills, I feel that EDG would have, played the flawless game here. They're up in double kills, as we look like they're going to start up a fight.
Yeah, Deft going to come in and King have to do something here. Skye's going to dive in, get stunned up though, and there's a great Noheart ultimate. Hits 4 people into that wall. Koro, how are you so good? Now Assassin coming in as well, but Sivir going to take out Thresher. Wook's actually popped his ultimate, but Clearlove now going to run defense. 2v3 is Pawn now going to make that a very unbalanced fight. They're going to flash off the cast Assassin as well. Gets fished and killed by Sivir once again, and Koro. My goodness, that man is good.
He just can't die at this point in the game. He's an absolute beast, as we see. Just a little bit of packet loss coming through, but wow. When you see Nah stand in the middle of people and they don't want to hit him, he just has all the CC, can stop you from running everywhere, and they're just like, it's not even worth it.
And that was, by the way, the end of that particular game.
Oh,
so, yeah, a little awkward there as we move through, but that signaled the end of that game. That was a surrender and the finish there coming through. No more League of Legends wanting to be played there by King after that.
And I don't blame them.
Yeah, exactly. That last team fight was, again, just
if you can't win
brutal.
a 3v5, yeah, there's no point in playing.
And Koro's, nah, man.
Yeah, Deft's
so
positioning
good.
once again was so good, and that's a mid lane that was incredibly fed, not there. Jungler, Clearlove played that series very well, and we're just able to take a fight that they probably shouldn't have been able to.
And for me, honestly, that felt like one of the less impactful Pawn games I've ever watched. And he still ended up with some insane score, playing exceptionally well. Like, this team is scary. This team is really, really scary. And what a treat for League of Legends fans around the world. That was just wonderful to watch.
Yeah, it definitely was, but you know what? On the other side of the rift, I still think there's good news for King. They showed that they have heart to fight through, and they were starting fights. I think the last fight in the first game impressed the heck out of me, because you know what? They were like, we're behind, but we're going to go in, make something happen, and we're not just going to roll over and die. And that's very, very good spirit to come out of it.
Yeah, and you know what? The best news is that there's more LPL. But unfortunately, not for this evening, guys. We are done for day 1 here of the LPL English broadcast. It's been fantastic. Thank you for my co-caster Spawn here. I am, of course, Patient. Our caster Atlas as well, who's on early in the evening. And, of course, our wonderful production team here as well. We're going to sign off from the Sydney studio here. It's been a great day. And more League of Legends is coming up tomorrow. But for now, good night.